Hi all, and welcome to the new season of the Meeting Room podcast. I'm Diana, the host of this episode, and today we are talking about the blind hiring experiment with people who literally stand behind it. Mykhailo and Kostiantyn, head organizer and the big idea officer at the Global Inclusion Forum. Hi all, with this episode we launch a new season of the Meeting Room podcast. I'm personally very happy to start the season with the topic on blind hiring and diversity. And today I have not even one, but two awesome guests who's joining today. It's Kostiantyn and Mykhailo. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking your time and joining today.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Diana. It's our pleasure.
Cool. And to start off, I believe it's going to be fair to talk a bit about what blind hiring experiment is in general. I'm sure that most people have heard of it, but I don't think everyone know what it implies exactly. So could you please elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Diana. So basically, the word notion of blind hiring is not new on the market. It's been there for a while. With the technology developing very rapidly, many companies started experimenting with what is called blind recruiting technologies. They've been using blind resume pre-screening, where all demographic data, all gender-related data, or all personal data, and any other data that could affect someone's biases, the recruiter's biases, was removed by software from their resume so that the recruiter could look more precisely at candidates' experience, candidates' skills, without being affected by, let's say, their gender, their race, maybe like a big name school that they graduated from, their age also. So these are all things that affect recruiters' biases and hiring managers' biases. So that was the first stage. Then the second stage, where blind hiring technology is used already, is blind interviews, meaning that people passing through blind resume pre-screening were then directed to a blind interview with recruiters, maybe some hiring managers, mid-level managers of the company that is hiring, so that also biases do not affect the hiring process. And then what's new with our blind hiring experiment, which we call fully blind hiring experiment, is that we want to complete the whole HR funnel or hiring funnel from the beginning till the end with blind technology. Meaning that the final interview, where the decision of hiring or not hiring a candidate is taken, should also be blind, and the employer would learn about the candidate's identity only after taking a decision on them, either yes or no. So this is something that is kind of, I wouldn't say revolutionary, but evolutionary to what is already there. Why people were afraid of using this fully blind hiring? Because everybody's blaming biases. Everybody's saying biases are bad, biases are affecting fairness and transparency, but nobody dares to eliminate biases till the very end of the HR funnel. Everybody believes that the biases of the lower management, the biases of recruiters are bad, but the biases of the big boss are good, because that's how they build the company. They all recruited people using their own biases, which they also call the gut feelings, but essentially it is the same. So everybody has some biases or experiences that they have lived through in the past life, and it includes some personal experiences. For some people, let's say, curly hair in a woman could be like a red flag, because in the big boss's past, some curly woman humiliated him in a situation that the boss doesn't even remember about. It's all subconscious. But to eliminate all of those, the only way is to do this HR funnel or hiring funnel being blind till the very end. So that is the idea.
That actually sounds like fascinating but quite complicated process. And you started saying about like biases, and I believe unconscious biases have a huge effect on the recruiting part. But do you believe that this blind hiring is the only way to a fair hiring and recruitment process? Because like many managers could just go up and say, well, hey, we actually doing something. We teaching our recruiters. We have trainings on unconscious bias. Like, why do we need blind hiring experiments that implies such a complicated process?
Yes, unconscious bias training is one of the most popular training in the diversity field or diversity, equity, and inclusion field. But unconscious biases, by the meaning, are unconscious. So for most of the people, it could take years, if not decades, to discover and eliminate their unconscious biases from their decision-making process. And not everyone is able to do that. Not everyone is willing to do that because subconsciously or even consciously, we believe that whatever gut feelings we have, and also psychologists and therapists, they also teach people to trust their gut feelings. And there are many examples where our gut feelings prove to be right. So that's why everybody, especially people in a senior position, they trust their gut feelings more than anything else because they have built their company to the success that it is right now. So why would they change their gut feelings that prove to be right so many times to something that they don't know about? So everything that people don't know about, so everything new is kind of fearful to anyone, including these unconscious biases. And people at the higher position, they are basically unwilling to eliminate this and unwilling to go through this new process. The reason why unconscious bias training was introduced, because usually people were biased towards the majority. So the majority of senior leaders are white men, and they were naturally biased toward hiring people like themselves, so white men. Nowadays, with the diversity movement spreading around the world, there is another type of biases also spreading around the world. And these are biases towards diverse people, because diverse people or diverse candidates, people of color, women, people with disabilities, LGBT, and all other categories, they have, in most of cases, lived through painful experiences through their lives. And sometimes, or very often, these experiences are also reflected in their resume. People hear about those experiences at the interviews where these people are sharing. So the other bias that senior leaders started to experience is that just the bias of sympathizing diverse people, not because of their experiences at work, but because of their experiences at life. These kind of biases lead to positive discrimination, where people with slightly less qualifications but diverse or painful experiences are hired to some positions where there are other people who didn't have those painful experiences in life, but they are more qualified to do the job. So to eliminate both kind of biases, either pro-diversity or anti-diversity biases, the fully blind hiring process is the only way. And why people fear, why senior leaders, why especially diversity officers fear to use this technique? Because in some companies, it can prove that, diverse candidates may be doing worse at interviews than people with no diverse background, which would ruin the whole diversity concept and diversity activist statements that are saying that, there are enough of diverse talent on the market. It's just the senior leaders' biases that affect the process. So our idea is to eliminate all kind of biases, either pro-diversity or anti-diversity ones, to produce 100% fair results based on skills, work experience, and ability to do the job that is enough.
Yeah, so the main idea of this project and this experiment is that we want to show that there is a way to overcome biases, both conscious and unconscious, right? And there is, unfortunately, resistance to DEI field from the fellow co-workers. We have experienced this. We have talked with companies from all around the world, and they are saying that instead of feeling equality, instead of feeling diversity, many co-workers, they're feeling the opposite. And we are trying to eliminate this as much as possible, because diversity is not about quotas anymore. It's about equality and equal rights, equal ability to be hired and be judged on a fair basis. So that's why we came with the idea of the fully blind hiring experiment. We want HR funnel or the hiring process to be fully, completely, 100% unbiased.
Okay, yeah, what you said sounds really cool. And from what I see, from where I stand, I really love this idea. But for the sake of this conversation, I just want to be like a fun party killer and just be on the other side, just asking you questions that can actually arise in lots of people's heads and just, look about the actual meaning of that resistance on the market. Like, as I understand, you take companies from different countries for the experiment. Is it right?
We are welcoming, at this stage, we're welcoming companies from different countries, and we understand that there might be regional or inner countries complexities within this project. But again, without experimenting per se, there will be no results. So we would like to invite as many companies as possible and then see the results, analyze them, and then come up with the perfect solution.
I can also add that at the very first stage with someone trying something new that no one has ever tried, we don't expect much turnaround from many companies, and we don't really need them. We need like a bunch of early adopters who are ready to go and try at least one job vacancy to go through this fully blind hiring process. That's the only thing we need. And then we are ready to experiment even on our own within our own company, because we have set up the whole process. And having our own candidates go through the whole funnel first and then inviting other companies to experiment with us would be even better, because every first time experiment has hidden flaws or discrepancies, maybe some mistakes. And then we are ready to make those mistakes on our own and then fix the flaws if there are any, and then invite larger number of companies to join the experiment, which would be no more an experiment because we are the ones who are ready to try it first.
Okay, but like I'm as a company a representative come to you and I say, okay, I want to participate in your experiment, but I want to hire specialists only in Ukraine, for instance. Then what would you do in this case?
No problem. If you want people to be from Ukraine, meaning that you don't want only Ukrainian nationality, but you want people who are located in Ukraine so that they can go to your office. So no problem. Of course, this is a fair requirement. If you follow the in-office presence rules or you don't allow people to work fully remote, that's your right. So whatever requirement you want to put in the job description is fine. So the only way for you to go through this process is to not see the candidates. So sometimes, if you are an IT company, so there might be like a few women applying for the jobs, and then some senior leaders could be biased towards women, and some other leaders could be biased for women. And then you will never know the gender of the candidates that you are hiring until you make a decision on them. So that's totally fair, and you're welcome to participate.
Yeah, so there will be no legal kind of binding in terms of, or bending, should I say, in terms of this experiment. So if there are internal policies in company, this experiment is not intended to bend them in any way or destroy them in any way, and you are very welcome to apply them towards the candidates. The only and the main idea is that there is a fair representation, there is a fair kind of input requirements from the candidates, and you don't have this ability anymore to judge people based on their presence, based on their voice, based on any prejudice that you might have because of your past experience. So that's the main idea. I don't know, if you are based in Ukraine and you don't want to hire people from Russia and Belarus, which is understandable, then yes, you can do this. And we have our technical partner, the platform with whom we're partnering with. You can actually set up these limitations in terms of geography into the hiring position, into the job offer. No problem with that. We think that this is actually a right thing to do, but at the same time, we just want to make sure there is no personal biases when hiring. That's kind of the main idea of the project.
Then in this case, it basically, if it doesn't contradict with any company's policies, what's the reaction of other companies who kind of have these fears of participation? Because you mentioned earlier that there is still a resistance, and this practice is still not well known in, I guess, not even in like a single country. Like, it's implemented on some level, but it's really hard to shift towards 100% blind hiring process.
Yeah, that's exactly what we said. We've conducted calls and we were talking with different companies from different countries. There is resistance and companies fear of doing this. But at the same time, when you're conducting something new and when you're introducing a new solution to the market, only up to 5% of companies will be pioneers. And the majority of companies will be the silent spectators. So we're not fearing this, and we will not stop at any, obstacles. We'll overcome this. And we just believe in the cause. So we'll just do it. We'll show the results, and we hope that more and more companies will join this experiment, which will no longer be an experiment, which will be a solution.
Yeah, as the conversation about diversity fatigue is growing in the corporate world, especially in America, everybody's getting tired of diversity in big corporations. We see more and more large corporations are willing to take part, or at least watch how it is going to take part later. We believe that this is the only solution that would reconciliate the supporters and the opponents of diversity. Because the supporters are saying that, diverse people are still oppressed, and the opponents are saying that diversity has gone the wrong way, meaning that diverse people are hired with preferences which irritates the majority, and it's simply going nowhere. So to prove the concept, or just to eliminate all of those discussions and conflicts, so blind hiring experiment is the only way, meaning that whatever biases you have, you won't be able to apply them to judging a candidate, and only fairly best candidates will go through the blind hiring process and get hired.
Yeah, and what you said about that everyone is getting a bit tired of the diversity topic, I observe it as well. And I noticed that sometimes diversity becomes like a real buzzword that people don't really even want to listen to, because there's been so many talks, so many conferences, so many just sayings, but not enough actions. And from what I see, like, this blind hiring experiment is something that can actually comes to the market and says, okay, I'm ready to act. We can actually act on that diversity thing, and then just look for the results. From that, I also have a question. You are the first company basically who's holding that experience, who can engage also Ukrainian-based companies. Is that right?
So far to our knowledge, we are likely to be the first company who would do this experiment in the world, because we have researched and we have found some companies that are building software products to do that, but they haven't finished yet. So far, we haven't seen that anywhere in the news, and we haven't seen that anywhere with the companies that we talked with. We're going to be the first in the world, which, kind
of flatters us.
We believe this is like a no-brainer idea. Like I said, we don't believe it's going to be a revolution, because we're only making the very final stage blind, while the previous stages have been experimented with by so many companies around the world, and they have shown results by hiring more women, more diverse people, more people with disabilities, and so on. But our goal is not to hire women, or not to hire men, not to hire black or white. Our goal is to hire the very best. And with great likelihood, the best composition that you get is most likely to be diverse. Because if you are selecting only one group, be it a majority or minority, you are losing some of the best people who do not fall into these quotas, who do not fall in this category that is favored. Our goal as any senior leader's goal, any CEO's goal is to hire the very best on the market, which could take your company on the next level.
That sounds really awesome.
We just want to eliminate the buzz from the word. That's basically the idea. And I do get it. People get tired, and sometimes workers or people who were working in the company for a lot of years, they see a threat from people of color, from women, because of quotas, because of the desire to just hire 50-50 or something. And that's not the right way. That's not how it should be done. So we want to bring back the competition to the hiring process. We want to bring back the fair competition to the hiring process. That's what the world is lacking, the fair competition based only on your experience, your skills, your ability to overcome difficulties in tasks, and other things that, distinguish one worker from another, not judging him or her based on any gender, race, and other types of biases that the person can have. So that's the core idea. If we can succeed in this, and I'm sure we will, no doubt about it, then we can make the world a better place. I know that sounds very cliche, but at the same time, that's what we're striving for. That's what we really want to do. And hopefully we can do it as fast as possible based on scientific results of the experiment.
Oh yeah, I'm personally actually very excited to see the first results of the experiments. And from what you just mentioned about the fair competition, so how do you think that blind hiring will change recruitment market? Do you believe the competition will rise or change in any way?
I don't think that it's gonna change much. Just eliminate the conversation about fairness and unfairness, and people will be more focused on, instead debating who is right or wrong, they will be focused on building their skills when we talk about candidates. And the companies will be more focused on growing their businesses. So it's gonna bring more efficiency into hiring in all other processes, because people will debate less about things or problems that will not exist anymore. And that is gonna happen with, any problem that you are solving. For example, now AI has solved the problem of writing and has helped people do things that they had to do manually in the past. Now they are refocusing on higher level tasks, on prompting the AI the right way, on finding the solution to their problems, on growing their businesses, instead of debating what is fair, what is not, who was discriminated against and who was not. So it's going to elevate this conversation on a whole new level. Very hopefully will eliminate the buzzword diversity. That's what we're talking about now. And eventually will make corporate world a better place.
That does really sound like a great idea. And talking about AI and technologies in general, we can just now see how it blends into our society, as you said, at lots of different areas of our life. And that's basically how the blind hiring can work thanks to the modern technologies. And how else do you think it can help companies and everyone to create a more unbiased corporate world?
Well, first of all, you need to stop fearing AI and new technologies, overall. Honestly, I love history, and it reminds me of the invention of the steam engine and all the protests that happened because of that. People were in fear because they would probably lose their jobs, which didn't happen. The new leap in technology each time creates new opportunities and new abilities. That's given, right? And with the emergence of AI, that's what's gonna happen. More and more people, more and more companies started hiring people who know how to quote unquote, talk with ChatGPT. More and more companies are hiring people who know AI generated software, who know how to work with this, etc. So it creates more opportunities. And of course, we're living in a world where new opportunities arise and old opportunities die. That's obvious, and that will happen. But at the same time, you just need to be more flexible and more open to these new opportunities. I think that people sometimes spend life in a loop, and it kind of destroys them, quote unquote. But at the same time, if we are open to new possibilities, everything is possible. Everything, seems easier to us at that point.
Also, I don't want to go too far to forecast what the implication of a successful blind hiring experiment could be, but provided that it is successful, I believe this blind hiring technology could be applied to other processes within the company. For example, we could talk about blind promotion, which could sound ridiculous from when you hear it for the first time, because when you work with people already inside the company, everybody knows the identity of anyone. But let's look at how promotion process takes place or is organized in big tech companies. For example, Google, Apple, and Amazon, they have very similar procedure. They have a promotion committee, which does not include the direct supervisor of a employee that is going to be promoted. So there is a promotion committee which convenes virtually, and this could be people from different departments, different locations. So they don't necessarily know the potential candidate for promotion, and they most likely don't know them. But what they do now, they look at their identity and the whole resume, knowing who this person is, all of their characteristics, and obviously their demographics also are part of the equation. Some of those companies have hidden diversity quotas, and the HR people and senior leaders are forcing these committees to meet these diversity quotas, affecting the process and irritating people who are not happy with them. That means that the whole process of interviewing these people who are candidates for promotion and people who could be potentially hired for senior roles could go blindly. People could go for blind hiring, blind interviews, blind meetings. They'll look at their resumes and achievement without seeing their personal data and any other data that could affect the promotion committee's biases. So it could be taken to a whole new level in other different areas of the company and make corporate processes much less biased. Of course, we will not be able to eliminate biases from our everyday life, because every day people are having some conversations, some interactions with each other, and their biases, their manifestations of racism or sexism could manifest themselves during these micro interactions. So this is another thing to fix for diversity and HR professionals. But the most crucial moments in everyone's career where we talk about hiring and promotion are very possible to fix with this blind hiring or generally blind technology.
And you must also realize at the same time, when we were talking with other companies and they said we would want to observe, maybe it's a little early for us to use this technology. I mean, we get it. And they were asking us how to apply an anti-cheat policy, quote unquote, again, for whole process. And I mean, we get it. We have two types of partners on this project. Technological partner, which is the platform that we're using for this whole experiment, is called JobCam. They're based in Brazil. And the other partner is our HR partner. So this would be a reputable international HR agency which will help us with doing background checks on candidates, which will be also helping us during the live interview to understand that this person is really the person who applied. There is no kind of cheating involved. And we understand there should be some kind of policing at this point. So that's why we bring such partners into the loop, into this experiment. We want to be sure that we succeed at every point and there is no way to, cheat in any way.
Yeah, and I love when talking about technology in general. I just love this vision of new technologies and AI in general as a tree with branches, and there's actually a few paths it can take, and it can actually create opportunities, but also it can create challenges. And if we look at the development of internet or just social media, we can see that we got so many opportunities and really awesome things that followed it. But at the same time, we do see some challenges still presented because of the presence of social media and internet and just remote world communication. So I just want to ask if you personally predict or see any challenges or risks that may arise when technologies will actually blend into processes related to diversity.
I see a big challenge in using ChatGPT during the interview process. Technology affects it, but when we talk about cheating, so Now it becomes unnecessary to bring another person to cheat. It's much easier to bring a ChatGPT to your online interview as an assistant. And in some cases, when some specific questions about technology, skills, and abilities are being asked, ChatGPT could act as a successful potential candidate, especially when it develops to a higher level. So it would be very hard to really judge on the people's abilities. But at the same time, however smart the ChatGPT gets, people get smarter also. That means that the quality of questions during the interview have to also evolutionize. You don't have to ask something specific that anyone can ask ChatGPT and get the exact answer. You should ask questions about people's personal experiences, about people's ability to solve problems, not about specific technologies that they can learn within minutes by using Google search or ChatGPT itself. So we should also elevate our HR recruiting practices to meet with the evolution of technology.
I mean, you cannot eliminate the human factor from hiring humans. So at the same time, you just need to engage and embrace, I guess, the new technology. So it involves all of us at every single stage of hiring process. It involves HR specialists, it involves hiring managers, it involves the candidates. And basically what we need to do is we need to understand that ChatGPT is already a part of our lives. So we need to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the fairness in the hiring process, during the process itself.
Yeah, and it actually got me thinking that this like a huge goal of diversity is actually about increasing empathy and increasing transparency and increasing fairness. And when that happens, maybe the issue of like cheating and you trying to sneak in will also decrease, which can actually be like an interesting turn of event.
Yeah, absolutely. When we see the whole pool of candidates, strong candidates, the only thing they need is fairness and transparency. Weak candidates, in turn, they want preferences, quotas, and other favors, which means the more we eliminate preferences, the more we favor the very best candidates on the market, and whoever does it will benefit their business in the first place.
Okay, well, it does sound like a bit challenging, but still a really interesting experiment. So guys, really good luck to you. I hope to see some press releases and experiment result and just everything in between. And I think the companies who will engage in that experience will benefit a lot from it in any ways. It was really great to have this conversation with you, to just see how you view this experiment and just diversity in general. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Diana.
Yeah, thank you. At the end, I want to invite all of your viewers and listeners to our Diversity Fatigue Summit, which will be happening online on May 18th, where we will be talking most likely about some first results of this experiment and also about the ways to overcome the diversity fatigue, which probably became one of the main reasons why people are turning and getting interested in the blind hiring experiment, in the fully blind hiring experiment, which we believe could be one of the key solutions to diversity fatigue as a whole.
Yeah, awesome. I think we will leave the link below, so you can just follow.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for listening to this episode. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more episodes coming soon.